Hello, welcome to the second episode of Non-Mainstream Dad. This series is devoted to talking about responsible non-monogamy and alternative sexual lifestyles, but there will be a little deviance and adventure in our topics, I promise. The name of today's episode is What is Responsible Non-Monogamy, also known as polyamory? So last episode I said the next would be on why I am polyamorous, but I thought it would help to understand things faster since the main reason you're watching is to learn about alternative something. I'll be taking this episode to explain polyamory, relationship anarchy, and responsible non-monogamy, as well as introduce some terms and definitions in case I slip into the lingo at some point. Once again, my disclaimer. I'm not doing this because of my doctorate or research, nor do I claim to be a sex therapist. No offense to anyone who comes from those backgrounds. I'm a person who is a sex educator from personal experience and personal concern. So, what all these terms mean? Well, they all mean the same things in one way. They're ways to label relationship styles where openly and honestly living a lifestyle where seeking, preferring, or choosing to have more than one intimate partner is the accepted norm. Non-monogamy is pretty self-explanatory. It means not monogamous. Responsible non-monogamy is consensual, ethical, open, and honest. Now, here's the trick and where quite a few people get caught up. It's usually because society tells people that they must only love one person at a time and then divorce them before we can love another person. And then divorce them to be able to love another person. I'm seeing a disconnect. I saw a disconnect, and it's a connection I've never been able to make. Responsible non-monogamy, polyamory, open relationships, relationship anarchy, all of these terms collude to make an umbrella that allows us to hear the following. It's okay to be intimate and share love and a connection with more than one person at the same time. It's okay to give love to more than one person at the same time. It's okay to receive love from more than one person at the same time. It's okay to give and receive time and emotional support to and from multiple people at the same time. There is nothing wrong with being in relationships with or loving more than one person. Polyamory is as much an umbrella term as responsible non-monogamy. The core of it is bad Latin and Greek roots. Many loves or loves of many or whatever you want to do. The term was coined by Oberonzell a few decades ago and it stuck. According to Wikipedia, polyamory is the practice of or desire for intimate relationships with more than one partner with all the knowledge of all the partners. It has been described as consensual, ethical, and responsible non-monogamy. People who identify as polyamorous reject the view that sexual and relational exclusivity are necessary for deep, committed, long-term loving relationships. Polyamorous relationships are varied, reflecting the choices and philosophies of the individuals involved, but with recurring themes or values such as love, intimacy, honesty, integrity, equality, communication, and commitment. Plus lots of citations and annotations that I didn't include. What it boils down to is poly is permission to love and connect with other human beings, with or without having to hide or lie, and for it to be accepted as within the covenant of your relationship, dating more than one person and being honest about it, loving more than one person and being honest about it. At the core of poly sits honesty. With yourself and with others. You have to be honest with yourself to understand your intersection with your partners and your motivations, and so you can understand your partner's motivations, and it helps you understand that they're not trying to hurt you, they're just trying to understand as well. Encasing that as communication. It almost seems trite that whenever talking to somebody about poly, you have to hammer the fact that without honesty and communication, like any relationship, there is nothing solid to the relationship and it will collapse on itself. Swirled on the top of communication comes consent. Think about it this way. You can only have full consent if you communicate honestly. Poly relationships come as many swirls as the rainbow. Last episode, I mentioned that I've been all kinds of configurations. It's because everybody does poly different. No one, poly is better than or worse than anybody else's. Don't get me wrong. There's all kinds of people who have all kinds of confusing and unsure reasons why they bash anyone who doesn't their poly. I'm not one of those. I'm really not. Some of the ways people do it are open or closed, meaning they aren't open to new partners within their group. Relationship groups that an individual is a member of can be called a polycule. This occurs when the participants are mostly date the other members of that group. Sometimes exclusively, sometimes not. If open, they may or may not allow new members into their polycule without a vote or some sort of vetting process. Closed is pretty self-explanatory, but it means all members aren't open to new partners. Another term you may hear is polyfidelities. This means that the people within the agreement will only be sexually involved with each other, and that agreements can cross lines and apply to people in other relationships. Hierarchy is a very debated topic as to its place and validity in polyamory. But people need to remember that everybody does theirs their own way. Part of what defines hierarchy can generally relate to the concept of nesting partners and the people you intertwine your lives with financially as well as emotionally. This is usually described as a person's primary relationship. Usually, this relationship term is to denote an emotional focus, economic entanglement, or commitment level, commitment ceremony, also known as a wife or a husband, though not always, or girlfriend, and it's usually a nesting partner. Generally, but not always, when you have a primary, the other partners are considered secondaries. Sometimes you have multiple primaries and multiple secondaries. It gets confusing. That's a different episode as well. Secondaries are theoretically a lower level of emotional day-to-day involvement and time investment, though quite a few might take umbrage with me saying that, including myself. Within hierarchy, tertiary comes as the open field layer, a net that kind of includes seemingly everything else, less committal and less involved, as what I've already listed, and kind of acts as the catch-all definition for everything else. Each relationship is different, and each relationship and polycule is full of their own relationship agreements. Sometimes those take shape as a written document so that all parties can read and agree and sign and have a letter of the law to follow. Some people need that. Sometimes it's unwritten but discussed in depth. Sometimes there's a problem because people don't always remember the discussions the same way. So you have to decide how you're going to approach that and how you're going to have to approach disagreements in case there's a misinterpretation or a different way to interpret one of your rules. Relationship anarchy is when the only rules and agreements that exist within a relationship are ones that are specifically agreed upon, discarding all models of hierarchy and making each relationship special, just like all the other ones. If you want to participate in a poly relationship and your relationship rules are unclear, it's time to start voicing them, because otherwise everything is going to explode. I promise. The beautiful thing about poly relationships is that you decide the life you want and the shape it will take, or at least you know what your goal is. Some more poly terms. Metamorph, your lover's lover. OSO, your other significant other. Monopoly, someone who chooses monogamy while dating a poly partner. Fluid bonded. I'll get into this later when we get a little more into the intimate side of poly, but it's who consents as to which individuals or as a group to have sex with or without protection with. Veto, the right of one partner to prevent or end the relationship of another. These are tricky. I'm not going to go into depth today, but I want to say that vetoes can be good and they can be bad. When they're used for good, it's because a partner sees various red flags that would be harmful to their partner or their relationship agreement. When they're bad, they're used as tools of control and manipulation and will require its own episode to discuss. I think that's a good start for today. Thank you for watching Non-Mainstream Dad. Please turn into our next episode, Why I'm Poly, and thank you for watching. Please feel free to leave comments or ask questions, and I'll do my best to respond in the comments, and your question may even inspire an episode's worth of response. See you then.